It's how you say things. When I was in that mindset, I was just saying things very blunt, almost like how athletes talk to each other in games. Now, before I just deliver it in an emotional way, I process how I'm feeling, and I process the points that I want to get across to people. And I think a lot of people now are resonating with that side of like being more vulnerable and being calmer in my deliveries.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am again your host, Mike Hoffman. And today, very excited, we are doing our first in-person podcast. And I am joined by one of my clients. And I guess I'll go on a limb and call my friend, Mr. Paulie Calafiore.
We are friends.
How you doing, buddy?
We are friends. Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate you coming in, looking all sharp today.
I know. We've been trying to get this on the books. I was trying to be podcast number 100. I missed that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I feel like I had to make up for it with the dress.
Well, my goal was to make you 100, and then and your brother was my first.
Yeah.
So we tried to time it, but we have you. It's great.
What number am I?
What number is she? What number is he? Do we know?
10.
We are 105.
Right. I'll take it.
All right, 105, good number. Good. I'm going to play that tonight in the Pick 3.
Solid number.
Yeah.
Play it.
So do you remember how we first met?
Well, as you've seen the most recent season I've been on, I did suffer 2 bad concussions.
Yeah.
When I left, so my memory is a little hazy, but I do think it was my brother that made the intro.
No.
No.
That was after, ironically.
Okay.
So there's so many things with our family as we're realizing as we're talking that we kind of cross paths in so many ways that we're learning as we, about different friends and stuff like that. But when your brother was on Big Brother All-Stars, on Thursday nights, which were the live eviction nights, you would do a live. And you would always invite random people to join. And I remember this, I was trying to come back to you.
No, sorry.
And for some reason, you brought in my daughter. And then my daughter mentions to you, oh my God, we know your brother. And you're probably like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then she mentions how he was my realtor when we bought our house in LBI. And you're like, oh my God, I've heard about you guys.
Yep.
And then you proceeded every Thursday to add my daughter to your call. And then finale night, it was all of us. We all had our Cody shirts on and so forth like that. So we kind of had this connection. And then I think it was a few weeks later, I got a joint text from you and your brother saying you were looking for some accounting help.
I was. I tried to remember those times because that's when I had long hair and I was training for bobsled.
Yeah.
And I was just really raggedy looking.
You were.
Yeah. I can admit that now. I don't know what I was thinking. I think because I had cool long hair when I was in high school and college, and I was like, maybe this will work out in my 30s. Doesn't work out.
Yeah, I look the same except for there's less up here, but everything else is basically the same. This might be a tad grayer, but this is gone.
Gone.
It's awful.
It's funny how fate works because it's like out of all the people that I could have picked to choose the live, it was your daughter.
Yeah.
You guys had this connection with my brother.
Yeah.
And it was a true connection. It wasn't somebody that was just like, I met him at a meet and greet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, great. It was like, no, you guys actually had a real connection. And, you're good at your job.
Yeah, appreciate that.
According to my brother, right? Which is how we started. And it's been 3 years now.
Yeah, it's been a while now. And the funny thing is, it even goes back before that, which was, I don't even know if you knew this. I think we might have told you. You were working, I think you might have been a DJ or something or a party dancer, and you were at our town's Marlboro Day.
Okay.
And you weren't yet on the Big Brother or anything, so you were basically not celebrity at that point in time. And my kids recognized you from, I think, the little clip on Big Brother when, Cody's family was on.
Yep.
And they came up to you and you actually FaceTimed Cody.
Yep.
So my daughter could say hello.
Yep.
So that was actually the first meeting. So there were all these things that you don't even remember.
All these different things.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember Marlboro Day. I remember I was working with Explosive.
Yeah.
Talent. I was an MC with them.
Right.
That's where it all started.
Yeah.
That's DJ MCing is where Cody and I got discovered for the shows.
Right. I remember he's saying that stuff he got discovered. Now, so for people who don't know, Paulie was on season what of Big Brother?
Season 18.
Season 18 of Big Brother, which is maybe about 10 years ago at this point?
Yeah, I mean, going on 10.
Yeah, going on 10. And since then has been on how many seasons of The Challenge?
I have been on 5 seasons of The Challenge.
5 seasons of The Challenge, which is both on MTV and recently CBS has taken up a summer edition. Just the most recent season he was on just ended, recently.
It was long. It started in August, ended in January.
Yeah.
One of the longest seasons that has been filmed.
But let's to be clear, it was a long season for most people. For Paulie, it was a relatively short season.
It was a relatively short season. Honestly, like ever since I came back after a 4-year hiatus, it's just been early exits back to back. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, is it attributed to the fact that I actually got busy in life?
Yeah.
And I wasn't consuming myself with only training for the challenge.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like fully mentally locked in. Like I feel like every time I left the past 2 times, my wheels were turning of like, did I get everything in order? Because now I'm not allowed to I can't talk to anybody.
Right.
So everything finance-wise needs to be set up with you before I leave, because tax season always is.
And that's what happened last year. You filmed, if I remember correctly, you left end of March.
Yes.
So I remember having calls with you literally up to the day you left to make sure your extensions were in, and we did that. So as you're an adult now and you're adulting and you own properties and you have a business and so forth like that, it isn't just, okay, 4 weeks of heavy training, 6 weeks of heavy training. It's I got to squeeze in training around my daily schedule.
Yeah, and the thing about the challenge is like they never really give you much of a heads up. So, as much as I try to organize months in advance to have everything in order, I'm still relatively new in the entrepreneur space.
Sure.
So I don't really have like all of those systems of like, all right, at this time, all these things are in order. We're ready to just send it off. I think we finally have it done. Like I was just talking with my dad earlier this week. So we actually have all the numbers ready for you this time around early. And I'm like, all right, that's great. We finally did it. We finally have a system where we're keeping track of everything all year. Everything's going to the right business accounts. Everything's on the right cards. But that's a hard process. And that's just with you. That's not with the company internally and training everybody to be ready to essentially run the company when I'm not there. And with my, with my properties, like the property manager needs to have a lot of things in order, coordinating with my mom. And I never realized that being an adult was so hard. And I give a lot of credit to people who are not only have been adulting for a long time, but adulting with children.
But there's a major difference with you. The major difference with you is I could go on a business trip and I could check in at night with family. I could still do things from that business trip. Talk about when you're, obviously Big Brother's a little more self-explanatory because you're isolated in the house. But when you're on the challenge, and last year you were in Vietnam, I believe it filmed in, they disconnect you from the world.
Completely disconnected. My agent and I have tried to negotiate for the past 2 seasons, allowing me to have access to my computer and my phone with supervision from a producer for 1 hour a day, just Monday through Friday.
Right.
And they've never allowed it. And I just don't understand why. I mean, I understand I don't have the tenure that some people have, but I do know that they allow it for some senior castmates.
Right.
I'm not going to name them because I don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, there's no need to.
And that's airing their contracts. But I know that certain people have it who run businesses at home, who have to be in touch with certain people who have things going on. And it's very hard for me to go there and only have a phone call once a week for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I call my dad and he knows like I can't really drop everything on him. So it's just kind of like, what's going on? And he also is mindful of, I got to keep his head in the game. Even if stuff's going on. He's not telling me. And like these past 2 times around, there's actually been a lot of stuff going on while I've been gone. So like I've come home and my dad would give me like a week or 2 to detox. And then he just drops a bunch of stuff on me. I'm like, what the heck's been going on in these weeks that I've been gone? I mean, I've only been gone 3 weeks both times, right? So you figure he waits 2 weeks when I come back, and then I get dropped a whole month. Just 1 month of things is just craziness. So now it's like I've had anxiety. Like after the first time around when that happened, when I came back on USA, second time around, I had anxiety. And I never had anxiety, but I had anxiety like every day in the game. And I'm trying to like keep myself calm, keep myself locked in on things. So it's been a very different thing. So I feel like moving into going away on these shows moving forward, I really need to practice a lot of mental meditation, a lot of that aspect of things where I can just shut off that part of my brain. So I'm not thinking about anything. Because what people don't realize is once your phone gets taken away, now all of a sudden you don't have distractions.
So
your mind. now go everywhere. So it's like you really have to get in a zone of like when a thought comes in, you have to be able to release it because you can't allow it to fester and fixate. Otherwise, you're gonna go insane.
Yeah, the only distractions then when you're there, the only distractions are dealing with the people you're competing against or trying to align with or trying not to get backstabbed by.
Yeah. And that only takes up part of the day.
Sure.
You know, so there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to distract yourself with game conversation all day or strategy conversation all day.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of downtime. And like in the downtime is like when you really get in your thoughts. Like this past time around, it's like, you know, my Aunt Karen passed away, my godmother.
Yeah.
I remember there being down moments where I just broke down and cried, like in the corner somewhere where nobody could see me. And like, those are the things where it's like, you think you're going to go away to this game and just be distracted by being consumed in the game, but you're not.
And did she pass away when you were gone or it was prior?
She passed away prior.
Right, it was prior, right.
Yeah, in February.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing, right? Like now add in like all the business things where all of a sudden you remember something and you're like, oh my God, did I
do that? Did I talk to that vendor? Yeah.
Talk to this, did I set this person up?
Yeah.
Are these passwords, you know, does everybody have the passwords to everything that they need the passwords?
Yeah.
And there's no way of getting communication.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing. People watch it. It's an entertainment. Let's face it. It's there for entertainment. For you guys, your mindset's probably evolved. I'm going to guess the first time you went on Big Brother, this is going to be cool. I'm 20-somethings, be fun. I'll hang out with some 20-somethings, maybe win some money. I imagine now the mindset shifted. It's more like a business trip.
No, for me, the first time I went on reality TV, it was all business.
Really?
Yeah. I wish I went into it with the mentality of, I want an experience out of this. I think that's where my brother went into the mindset the first time around. He's like, I want to have a good experience. And he had a great experience.
Yeah.
I went in of like, this is all business. I'm going in, I'm starting the game from day one, and I'm here to win. And I think my season, when you watch it, that's exactly kind of how it played out on camera from a standpoint of like, why is he being the way that he is?
Right. Because it's not you.
It's not me. It was just, when I go into these games, I really don't care about who's there. To me, you're a chess piece. You're not even human in my mind. You're just a piece on the board.
Yeah.
So I remove that empathy and that compassion and that everything because I almost go into a mindset of like, we're at war with each other. I don't really care. Male, female, gay, straight. I don't care your race or anything. It's just, we're in there to play a game. I'm making moves to play the game. And that's how I was in the first half of my career, even going into the challenge. And I wanted a time off. My mentality changed to be like, let me actually enjoy this because it is a cool experience. You're in another country, sharing an experience with these people who you're playing a game with. You don't have to hate them.
Right.
And that's where my mentality shifted. And I wanted to kind of don't like that it shifted that way because I've gone home early twice.
Right.
So it's almost like now I'm questioning myself of like, do I need to go back to that old mentality? Is there a happy medium? To me, it's not even a business trip as much because the guarantees are great. If you last longer than what your guaranteed like weeks are, because the structure is you get a guarantee for a certain amount of weeks. Once you make it past that, it's a weekly. You're getting a good paycheck the longer you're there. And from that standpoint, it's a business trip. But for me, I'm going in there now with the mentality where it's like, I do have a chip on my shoulder because I really do want to get that first win. Yes, financially, it's great. And, you know, it would set up a lot of really amazing things. You and I talked about different ventures that I have in mind and plus the real estate aspect of things that I like. But the title and the name challenge champion, like that's just something that
like it's a legacy item.
It's a legacy item. And that's what I'm chasing more than anything else. So going home early these past two times has really sat with me because it's not like business and it's not like sports where if you have a bad day, the next day could be better. If you have a bad week, the next week could be better. If you have a bad month, the next month could be better. Same with a year, right? You can make a bad year into a good year. With the challenge, if you have a bad season, you have to wait. You have to rewatch your failure, and then you have to wait until the next season. And then you have to get there and you have to undo what just happened. And if you have back-to-back losses like I did, now you're sitting there questioning all sorts of things that you never questioned.
Right.
Like, do I still have it?
Yeah.
Can I make this work? Can I win? Can I get back to what I once was, where I was dominant?
Yep.
Or, is it over for me?
Right.
So
yeah. Now the interesting thing with you is, as you said before, you've totally changed your persona. And we've joked about this before, and the biggest difference with you and your brother on Big Brother is he came off as, everyone loved him. You had your season, I think the next season right after him, and 2 seasons after, and you came off as he was the ass.
Yeah, very polarized.
Yeah, you fought with a lot of people. It got nasty. You had some shouting matches with guys, with women, and so forth like that. Carried over to the challenge too, and it was bad boy Paulie for a while, and that's what Us Weekly would pick up and all that. That was your persona. However, it has shifted.
Yeah.
And I guess part of that, as you said, it might be just maturity. It might be you're more aware, or so forth. But it's been an interesting, for someone who's known you, it's been a very interesting evolution watching that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes with delivery. Mm-hmm. It's how you say things. If you really pay attention to me at that time and me now, I'm not really saying anything differently, but it's just how I say it. Yeah. Like when I was in that mindset, I was just saying things very blunt, almost like how athletes talk to each other in games. Mm-hmm. Now when I and it was raw. It was raw emotion. Like when I was saying something, I really meant it.
Oh yeah, sure.
I meant what I was saying when I delivered it. But now, before I just deliver it in an emotional way, I process how I'm feeling, and I process the points that I want to get across to people. And I think a lot of people now are resonating with that side of like being more vulnerable and being more calmer in my delivery. So it's like, instead of, if somebody makes me angry, I'm just like, fuck you, you're a bitch. This is the reason why you're a bitch. And boom, 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 go fuck yourself.
We'll make that the opening.
Okay.
That'll be perfect. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, great opening. Now it's kind of like, hey, I don't like that you did this. Yeah. This is the reason why I don't like you did this. Yeah. This is how it makes me feel. And I'm now letting you know that because you did this, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And before you get angry or upset with me, when I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen, don't. Yeah. Because I'm telling you I'm going to do this. And when I do this, you know exactly why I'm doing this. And just so you know, we are on opposite sides at this point. Right. Right. And that's kind of where it was, where it's like, if you see the evolution of things, and, there's a lot of things that didn't air on USA and 40. But there was a lot of moments where the old me would have just blew a lid. Yeah. Went nuts, tossed things around the house, gotten in people's faces and all that stuff. But you saw kind of me make amends on USA 2 with a lot of people. And yeah, I knew that they were trying to get me out, but I still wanted to be like, hey guys, I know you're trying to get me out, but hey, I'm not coming after you. So if you're coming after me, that's on your business. On season 40, I could have reacted to Cara being thrown into an elimination by someone who I thought was my friend, Johnny. But instead of just getting angry, blowing up, getting in his face, getting in Laurel's face, getting in everybody's face who I thought had a hand in it, because I had an idea of all the people who were whispering and who did it. I was just like, come on, dude. Like, really? Yeah. Like, I thought we were friends. Even, with the Theo confrontation, I heard that he was asking for me after him and I said, hey, we're at ends, but we're on a team, so we need to be together. Yeah. And then we could go after each other and settle it in the sand later. Yeah. And I knew people were getting in Michelle's ear and, hyping him up to really ask for me. But even that confrontation in the deliberation wasn't a, let me curse you off, let me do whatever. It was just like, I heard you're asking for me. We can settle it in the sand. And there was a lot of things that I said where he was trying to bring up the past. And I was like, you're not going to sit here and lie to my face and tell me that you didn't know that people were targeting Cara and me for War of the Worlds 2. You're not an idiot. You have conversations with people. You're not about to gaslight me in this chamber. Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? So instead of just cursing and yelling and screaming and going across the table and all that stuff, it was, I'm angry. This is why I'm angry, and I'm delivering my points, and I'm rebutting your argument. And I think that's where I'm at this point. Like, the fire is still in there, but I don't think you need to get in people's faces where security is holding you back anymore to get your point across.
So it's interesting. So a lot of what you're doing now is you're still doing now, after a little gap, you're still doing reality TV, reality TV, because obviously we can spend a whole conversation about how real is this, but you have become, as you said, an entrepreneur and a businessman. So kind of talk about the evolution. We can talk about your company, but talk about the evolution from what you were doing before this. Then you get an opportunity to go on these shows, which is a great platform for you to be able to promote yourself. And it comes to many advantages in the business world. So kind of talk about the transition now from doing that to what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been entrepreneurially spirited in terms of my mindset. I remember when soccer ended for me, I was so upset, so distraught. I just moved into New York City, worked corporate, and just tried to be as successful as possible. And then as I was being as successful as possible, I had like an awakening moment after like 2 years of just the grind and getting accolades as a salesperson and all that stuff. And I was like, man, this is going to be my life forever. And I was looking at people 5 years ahead of me who were managers, 10 years ahead of me who were VPs. And I was like, I looked at them and I was like, they try and distract themselves with things that they love outside of this, but they're not happy here. And I was like, I don't want that for my future. So I remember walking in to get I was getting a promotion, and in the conversation, I was like, so I'm going to quit. And they were like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm just going to go work for myself. Cause like I was sitting there calculating, I'm a numbers guy. And I was looking at how much I was making the company from sales, and I was looking at what I was making in commissions, and they always had it in a pie chart. So I would look at the pie chart and I would just be like, man, I'm only getting like
you're just a small little
I'm a sliver of the pie. I was like, I want the whole pie. So I left cold turkey and just hit the ground running in New York, doing fitness, teaching Krav Maga, working as a promoter, working as a host for bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings and corporate events and all that stuff. And I just remember I worked nonstop, and I sat there and I was like, okay, so you can make your own money from all of these channels. And, I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now that I was kind of honing a bunch of crafts and skill sets that I use in my businesses now. And then when I left New York, I came to New Jersey and I was like, okay, now I want to start a soccer training company. I want to start my own entertainment company, and I want to do these things. Right. So I was like, but I need experience and I need some of the things in New Jersey because I only knew New York. So that's why I went to Explosive. That's when I started trading with the company called CTR, all based in Marlboro. And I started learning. And I started doing that. And then I ventured out on my own and I was like, okay, so I can do this. And then I had the mindset again where I was like, I'm building businesses in New Jersey. That means I'm going to be stuck in New Jersey forever. And I started getting in that same mindset of like, I didn't want to be stuck in an office in New York. And then I was like, I don't want to be capped at just one state. I want to be national or potentially international. So I left everything behind. I left the soccer company to my dad and my brother, which, they ran for a certain amount of time. So my brother now has ventured off into his new thing, and my dad is retired. He works for my company now. And my partner with the entertainment company still has it. He's crushing it, doing great. I was able to bow out of that. And the reality TV thing picked up, and I was like, okay, but what do I want to do? And then I was like, okay, I want to help people. I want to educate people. I want to, start helping these reality people make money. So I started doing brand deals myself, and I started making connections with these companies. I was like, all right, I could really help teach these people to go. and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I remember 2019, I was gaining crazy momentum in the offshoots of filming, and I had about 20 brands. I had 100 clients, and I was keeping everybody on rotation of like 3 or 4 brand deals a month and making commission off of it. And I was doing great. COVID hit, all the brands were like, we don't want to do this anymore. And it was the time where all of my clients were like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, we need to shift into content creation, and we need to create market funnels for you. So I need you to focus on your Instagram. I need you to focus on your TikTok. I need you to focus on your Twitter at the time. And I said, we need to focus you on YouTube and podcasting. I said, we need to build your brand. I said, and then we need to create a website for you, and we need to funnel them to the website. I said, and on this website, we need to have merch. We need to have ways for you to make money. So Cameo was a thing. So we need to link your Cameos. We need to link virtual meet and greets, and we need to link subscription-based platforms.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, the only subscription-based platforms that existed were Patreon and OnlyFans.
Yes.
So I had a knowledge of those spaces from myself, and I created a space where you didn't have to do the stigma of those things.
Correct.
Right? Because that was the biggest thing for all of these reality TV and influencers and everything. And I was like, guys, you don't have to do porn. You don't have to be explicit. You don't have to show really anything if you don't want to. It's all about marketing your personality. And we're going to market your personality, and we're going to create a funnel into these spaces. So that's where I shifted almost immediately. Like when I think I saw the news about COVID, I was in the Bahamas, and it was in China only at that point. And I was like, I got a feeling that this is like gonna come here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a thing. So I started already shifting into that space. And then when it came here, I was already prepared. So we just hit the ground running. 2020 was probably one of my best years in terms of making money. I remember I paid off all my student loans against your advice.
Yeah. That happens a lot.
Yeah. Against your advice, I didn't listen. I paid all of that off. I paid my car off. I paid off all my business credit cards at that point in time, and that was it. You know, we started going, and then the following year we were able to do events, and we were doing it very wisely because there were restrictions and everything, but all of my clients were happy. They were making money. And you know, I always said to myself that once I started making money, what I was going to invest in was real estate. And for basically all of 2020 and all of 2021 into 2022, I was looking at where the right places were to get real estate that was at that sweet spot pricing, because during COVID, everything shot up like crazy everywhere. And I needed the sweet spot where it was going to have a return on investment for rent. So I needed somewhere where it was going to be low in price, high in rent. And I found it. I told you about it. I'm not going to tell everybody else out there because it's our little secret. But found a nice little sweet spot that is up and running and is growing year over year. And that's kind of where I went. So I got 2 properties at this point. I would like to get more. I think the market is getting ripe, you know, this year, where I think we can maybe snag 1 or 2 more, which I was going to talk to you about after this.
There you go. And the great thing about those rental properties is it's a dual income generator. You're getting your rent right now. And in a perfect world, as long as the rent's covering your carrying costs, your real estate taxes, your mortgage, and so forth, you're basically just building up equity. So even if you don't necessarily make money from a monthly, the objective will be to have an increase in value, but also to have it debt free.
Yeah, and I always look at it this way: is whenever I'm about to invest in another one, I want to pay one off. So, you know, that's kind of the strategy that I'm looking at moving forward. So like, if I am going to move on any properties this year, if I move on those properties, I'm going to pay one off before making that happen. You know, and I think I want to build that portfolio up a little bit. I've talked to you about looking at commercial real estate,
Mm-hmm.
And other investments from a business standpoint to see if I can just kind of diversify my portfolio. Like we always are funding my SEP and my Roth.
Yep.
And I think that that's the main thing is when I'm in my 40s and 50s, I don't want to have to be financially worrying about anything.
Yeah, of course.
Even if debts aren't paid off to a lot of things, I want to be at a place where, God forbid, something happens and let's say my business no longer exists. Did I set everything up financially where I can still live and survive?
Right.
And I don't need much to survive because there were times where I was making nothing and I was living in a shoebox.
Right.
So I know I can survive on nothing, no food, no drinks, no nothing, and budget myself.
Yeah.
So that's where my mindset is.
So you're also building yourself so you don't have to live that way.
Exactly.
So you want to be able to eat
Yeah.
and not live in a shoebox, and even if you have a simplistic lifestyle, you still want to have a nice lifestyle. And you still want to enjoy things, especially in your 50s after working hard.
Yeah.
For so many years. You're working for something. And having debt's not a bad thing as long as you have enough income to cover it. So if you have enough money out there and it's giving returns that are far in excess of your debt, it's okay to have the debt because the debt might be at rates that you're outperforming in your investments. And that's, I think different financial advisors have different approaches. Some are big on carry debt at low rates. Why not? And some are like, to be successful so you can retire early, you need to be debt free. And I don't think that's necessarily true at all.
Yeah, I know people in both spaces.
Right.
So I know people very successful, completely debt free.
Yep.
And then I know people very successful that operate off of the debt.
Yeah, that's right.
And most people don't know how to operate off of that. That's a little bit more scary.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because you're taking a risk, but if you kind of know the loopholes and the ins and outs, I mean, I've got friends in real estate who they operate off of debt. They operate off of putting liens on properties they have in order to acquire new properties.
Yep.
And then they accumulate, and out of nowhere they're able to just either pay things off at a time, but they're saving themselves on the tax side of things. They're saving themselves on the income side of things. And it's really interesting to kind of know that because you don't learn that in school. You only learn that through people you meet. And you only learn that if you have a good accountant. You learn that.
You'll find one day.
Yeah.
Give it time.
You learn that if you know other people in the business space, if you have a good lawyer, all these things, but you're not taught these things. And I wasn't taught these things, which is why I feel like I was very blessed to navigate New York City early on because you're able to hang around with the upper echelon of people if you carry yourself and put yourself in that upper echelon.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of fake people in New York and LA.
Yeah.
But in New York, you're able to figure out who's fake and who's not very fast.
Yeah.
And you can navigate who you want to emulate.
Yeah.
In LA, they're great at hiding it for a very long time. A lot of people who are nowhere, but they can present like they're somewhere for years.
Yeah.
Can't do that in New York. It's too expensive.
Yeah. But and you come across also as you're dealing with people, you're a very straight shooter and respectfully. But you say it. I'm saying it in a good way. You'll say what you feel, but as you said, maybe over time you now say it differently. And so business wise, you're out there, and if you're negotiating deals or you're promoting your next event in Montana or whatever, you're very firm in what you want and how you want it. But you also do it in a way that people aren't turned off. People want to work with you. And I think that's how you kind of grown the business. And I think one of the biggest challenges of your business, and I think it is with all of these reality TV people, is they have a window before the next crew of reality people come out there. So the challenge is different because you guys will be on season 40, season 41, season 43. Maybe you skip a season or two, and that's what happens. But the people that are like on Big Brother, I know you represent it. I've represented some of those. And your brother made this good point to me. You got a window until that first episode the next year. And then once you do, now there's the new people that are getting followed. And those are the people now that everyone wants to meet. And you're a little less important to the fans because you're a year ago. Now there's a whole new season to talk about.
Yeah. I agree with that. It has shifted a little bit because of how popular social media has become.
That's exactly where I was going with it.
That the people who are smart and brand themselves the right way away from the show get themselves to a point where they're constantly getting good engagement and they're constantly building a fan base outside of Big Brother. Because the way the algorithms work is if you capitalize off of the algorithm that's coming from the engagement, it's going to push you onto the explore page. And if you're doing things that other people can relate to and engage, or if you're just an attractive person, which,
never hurts,
seems to work better on the female side than on the male side. But if you are,
that's why it's not working for me. I'm a male. I couldn't figure out what it was. Now I know. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, you and me both.
That's the only reason. That's the only thing holding me back.
We have to bring education. We have to bring entertainment. We have to bring that side of things. But that's where the direction is going. So like there are a lot of people who have branded themselves really, really well recently on the male and female side of these reality shows. So you can have staying power in that realm on social media.
And what happens now is, and we talked about it briefly, but I won't get into specifics, you're seeing a lot of reality people being on other reality shows. So it's almost like for some people, reality TV has almost become a career, for lack of a better word. So you see this year on the new season of Traitors, you have a bunch of people that were on Big Brother. Some were on Big Brother 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then some were on 10 years ago. Then you have them from these other shows that I don't watch, Survivor, obviously. What is it called? Love Island. And all these shows, people are kind of just going from one to the other. And now they're even doing cross network.
Yeah.
So the people that were on CBS are now, I don't know, whatever their deals were necessarily with CBS, are now moving on to an NBC production, and so forth. So by maintaining relevance, it's turning into other opportunities with other shows.
Yeah, and it's crazy because some of these people from a long time ago, they haven't maintained relevance, but they were just so impactful at their time, where it's allowed them an opportunity to almost have like a new lease of life in this latter part of their years. Now the question is, do you capitalize off of it correctly?
Yep.
Right? Because once again, the window is always going to be short. There's only a few people that have like extended 20 plus years of success on TV, right? Like you got CT, you got Wes, you got Johnny Bananas, you got Cara, right? Those are probably like the main names that stick out when you want to talk about people who have had like a 10 to 20 year span of their career. You know what I mean?
But that show's even different though, because there's such a physical aspect of that.
Yeah.
That I'll make a generalization. I challenge someone who's in their 40s, a lot of people, I'm sure there's always exceptions, that can compete at a high level 40s against 20 somethings, jumping off of helicopters or swimming 5 miles or hiking 20, whatever it may be. Other shows that might be more mind driven, obviously, you could go on Big Brother as a 60 or 65-year-old and, yes, there's some of the challenges you might struggle in, but you have a much better chance. Whereas I don't think you're going to see a 60-year-old ever on the challenge that maybe can win a puzzle. But as soon as that first physical challenge comes in, I mean, I look at those things and I'm not by any shape in shape like you are or something, but I think I'm okay. Yeah. I would last on that show literally about a minute and a half. That first challenge, no matter what it would be, is so above what I could do. I might get through it, but it would take me 4 extra hours than the rest of you. You guys would be home eating and sleeping already. So I think some of those things to definitely have a shorter window for the people that you just mentioned who have maintained 20 years on that. That's just an impressive feat, but I don't think that's common because not everyone can do that.
Well, they've had to change their games, and that was the whole point of All Stars. It was supposed to be for the OG people, the older people, right? And they've had people who are in their 50s and stuff on there, and they've made it a little bit, catered towards them. I think that's now shifting, but even on this season 40, we saw how well the older people did. They did terrible.
Right.
They all were eliminated early, except for Rachel, who ended up going on and winning. And they didn't just get eliminated early; like they were hurt.
Right.
And I remember them complaining in the short time that I was there, like their backs were hurting, their knees were hurting, their ankles were hurting, the beds weren't comfortable.
Yeah.
Like they can't work out, like the food was affecting them. Yeah. It's just a different, the heat was affecting them. They didn't like the conditions because when you've lived a great life, you don't want to go into those conditions.
No.
But that's the point that I'm saying is like a lot of those people, I don't think they should be on the challenge anymore. They have the opportunity to expand to these.
That's my point, is they can leverage it elsewhere.
And they can. The challenge is different in that regard. Like I even ask myself, I'm like, I maybe only have until like I'm 45 to the challenge. And that's only because I've been an athlete my whole life.
Right.
And I know how to take care of my body. So But it's great seeing these people on other shows like Traders and House of Villains and now Deal or No Deal Island. Like you got Dr. Will coming back to TV after 20 years off. These are really amazing shows, and I think the reality shows in the US aren't going to slow down.
Right.
Like I think scripted stuff is completely over when it comes to network television. I think everything has gone to streaming, and once again, like only certain ones hit, other ones don't. I think we're going to see a huge burst in reality TV over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And what the key is, because there's so much of it.
Yes.
The key is you got to find the next novel idea. It's got to be something different, because so many of them now are overlapping, and they're so similar with a different name. And whatever comes in with a new twist, the challenge. Hey, 40 years. So clearly, people are watching that because of they do keep it relatively fresh. Where there's the nice balance of it is you'll have the same competition that's the Hall Brawl. Say I even know that. I don't watch the show regularly, but I know that because I know
I got hurt.
I know. I don't want to bring it up yet, but I've seen you in Hall Brawls where you dominate.
Yeah.
So my point is, people look forward to that. Like I know my daughter will say to me, "Oh, this week's the Hall Brawl," because that's something they look forward to every year.
Staple.
But at the same point in time, there's new and exciting things every year. So you have to keep the consistency of the stuff that people look forward to. You go back to Big Brother, OTEP. It was the stupidest thing, but people look forward to that one week, or in the comics. But you also want to see different competitions, because otherwise it's the same thing every year with different faces. And I think TV needs to be creative with that, which is kind of like, what you're saying.
Yeah, well, they have to be, because, now what we've even seen with Beast Games, right? Now, if you're a content creator who has a massive following like Mr. Beast, you want to do a reality show, you can, and people are going to watch. And streamers have also taken over the aspect where they have gotten millions and millions and millions of people who follow them and view their stuff.
Yeah.
So if the networks and the production companies aren't smart, we're also going to see kind of this revolution of creators who are like, I think I can do that, and I think I can do it better.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it.
Well, Beast's ideas are brilliant. I mean, some of the things he does are quite entertaining, and he's marketed himself for it. If you don't follow him on YouTube, he'll just pop up on my TikTok feed a 30-second clip of a competition, and then what do you do after that? Like, you're so intrigued in the 30 seconds, I'm just engrossed. I have to go find it now, because I have to see how it ends.
And that's where everything's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. Like streaming services like Netflix have become dominant.
Yeah.
In reality TV space, Peacock dominant. So if I think the days, like, there's always going to be network television, but I think even network television is going to go to a point of they're going to be hosted on streaming services where it's like NBC is on this. So
I hate it. I hate it now in the one sense. And I want to move on to one more thing before we cut you off. Is you watch these award shows. Like I watched Sunday night the Golden Globes. I want to see Nikki Glaser because I'm a big Nikki Glaser fan.
Yeah.
I don't hear of any of these shows because it used to be CBS, NBC, ABC. Now these shows are being nominated, and it's like, I never heard of you because I don't even know what you're on, or I might not have every streaming platform between Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max. It's like you can't have them all. Well, you can, but it's very hard to follow. So I'm hearing all these shows that are nominated. I'm like, what's that show? How's it nominated that I didn't even heard of it? Where in the past it would be, when I was growing up older than you, it was Seinfeld against Frasier against Friends against, it was the same shows every year because those are the ones get three choices, get three networks to watch. So I think the evolution, is just crazy. But yeah, Nikki Glazer's hysterical, and she was just so funny.
Nikki Glaser is hysterical. I watched it. But you're right. Like, I remember as a kid, like, we'd be watching being like, which show is going to win? Which movie is going to win?
Yeah. And you saw them all.
Actor and actress, like, you were invested in it. Now there's so many shows, so many movies, so many actors. You have somebody popping up, and you're like, who is this person? Even?
Or the person, and I didn't even know she was in something. Like the one category, like all these like legendary people nominated. I heard of none of the shows they were in. I didn't even know they were in any of them.
Yeah. I think the next phase that is going to come from everything that's out there is there is going to have to be a merging of streaming services.
Yeah.
Essentially like what eventually happened with like, Fox and NBC and CBS and ABC, right? There became four major players.
Yeah.
I think there's going to have to become four major players again, and then I don't think every streaming service can charge astronomical prices.
Right.
And there needs to be a way for everybody to have everything. in order to do it. And that's where we're going to start to see finally where you could watch the Golden Globes and watch the Oscars and be like, oh, I know all of this stuff. But for now, it's all over the place.
No, it's crazy. But I think social media's been great in certain ways because I think certain people become famous from it or can use it. Another comedian like Matt Rife. I think it's hysterical, but I became a Matt Rife fan from TikTok. From the 30-second clips, and they get funnier and funnier. And there's the one guy, I forget his name, you might know it. There's the one comedian who sings everything, his entire show, but he's on my TikTok feed. And it's hysterical. But he plays with the crowd, he makes the crowd sing. And he's got one of those microphones that reverbs.
With the auto-tune.
Oh, it's hysterical. But now it's like, I want to see this guy when he comes to town because I wouldn't have known, if it weren't for back in the day, you knew comedians because they were on Carson or they were that's the only way you got to know them.
Yeah.
But now
same thing with Hannah Berner. She blew up on TikTok.
Yeah.
And she's great. Yeah. Matt and Hannah are both my friends, and it's crazy to see the evolution of them because they've always done comedy.
Yeah.
But they've really excelled on TikTok, and now Netflix specials, hosting roasts, all of these things.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. And by the way, the roast is my favorite thing on TV.
Oh yeah, the Tom Brady roast was.
Yeah, but I go back to the Comedy Central ones, even the one, and that's when Nikki Glaser really became live to me. The Rob Lowe's one, or Alec Baldwin, Bruce Willis. I mean, just funny stuff. And I respect people that are willing to just get abused,
get dirty like that.
Yeah. And even if you're just a roaster, you're still getting abused up there too. So I give credit. And people that can dish it, it's important to me that they can take it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun too. Is I'm going to crush you, but I know 10 minutes from now. You're coming back at me probably even harder, and that's okay. I
think comedy and I think the roasts kind of helped cancel culture.
Maybe. Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Because, everybody, and listen, people have rights to be upset at things and everything, but I feel like when you're watching comedy or when you're watching things for your entertainment, I think being offended should be off limits unless it's something that blatantly crosses.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we obviously want to keep the bad ideas out.
Yeah.
Always. Mm-hmm. But if I'm watching a comedy special and somebody makes a joke, I got to laugh.
You know what you're in for. You're watching a comedy special. Exactly. You're watching it to be, the one thing I saw with that is, Matt Rife was making fun of someone in a wheelchair.
Right.
And the crowd, and it's like, listen, the guy sitting in the second row, he know what he came for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dave Chappelle, roasted the one congressman who's in a wheelchair.
Right.
In his one special, but then afterwards you saw them in pictures together and they're friends.
Right.
And they showed him in the crowd laughing at the joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, people I think when people watch things, they have to understand that there's a behind the scenes, right? There's a curtain.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're all in on the joke.
Yeah.
So like, what you're watching is for your entertainment. Behind the scenes.
Yeah, you don't know after that show if he had that kid backstage and he took pictures with him and played with him and
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure they do. I'm sure a lot of them do that too.
A lot of comedians, if they're writing something that's pretty brutal, they usually will contact whoever they're writing it about and be like, hey, I'm about to do this bit. I don't know how you're feeling about this, but this is what the joke's going to be. Let me know how you feel. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, all right, hey, that's a funny way to
you go with it. So I want to leave one last thing, because this is obviously your life has evolved over the past year and a half because you made an announcement and you chose to make it on TV.
Yeah.
And that was about your sexuality and stuff like that. I asked you first, you said you're open to talk about anything. Yeah. Did that take a weight off of your shoulder and kind of just change how you went about things, knowing that this part of you that you hid or kept private, whatever word you want to use, very effectively, that was out in the open? Like, that just changed your mindset about life?
It did. It changed my mindset about life. It took away a lot of the fears that I had about being vulnerable and about opening up, because like, as a man and as an athlete, I was never really like taught that.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, you have to be on all the time.
Yeah.
You have to be a savage all the time. And you have to
be a man's man.
Yeah, I got to be an alpha all the time.
Yeah.
So that kind of took a huge weight off of my shoulders in that perspective, and it allowed me to be able to communicate things without fear.
Yeah.
Like, prior to that, I was always worried about how I was communicating things after the fact, because obviously it would just come out and then go. But I always had like that thought in my head before I would fire off a tweet, before I would say something on an interview, before I'd say something on a show, and I'd be like, I'm gonna say it anyway.
Yeah.
But there would be that little piece of like, should you say this? Now I don't have that piece where it's like, should you say this? I'm like, I'm just going to speak what I'm feeling, because I know that I'm not coming from a place of malice. And I'm not coming from a place of like pent up anger or aggression. So that's helped in a big perspective. I will say that, you know, the first time I went home early, when I did come out about that, it was a lot of love. It was a lot of, and I had anxiety about it, you know, and because of the reaction and everything, my anxiety went away. This time around, I'm 40 when I went home early. It left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, because that's kind of where, you know, it was still mostly love, but that's where a lot of like the knuckleheads came out. And we're just kind of like, ha ha, like you went home, like you little like, you know, and all that stuff. So like, I don't, coming from where I came from and everything, and now once again, I take everything with a grain of salt, because if I look at the profile picture and it's some out of shape guy who probably has never worked out in his life and all that stuff, and you sit there and be like, oh yeah, you lost, gay boy. And it's like, all right, buddy. Like, look at you.
Let's meet up.
Or let's sprint 10 feet. You know, and you know, I'll give you $100 if you're even within 2 feet. After 10 feet. Right. But that, from a competitive standpoint, really leaves a sour taste in my mouth, because part of me coming out about this was because I know so many professional athletes, and I know so many fighters, and I know so many really dominant people who are also either bi or they're hidden, you know, in the closet, gay, you know, with families and all this stuff. And I just wanted to be able to show that that aspect of things, what I hid my whole life, was because of a perception that I wanted people to look at my performance only. And be like, he's dominant, I respect him. Without having to know that, and be able to be like, yeah, he's dominant, but.
And you want to be known as, he won the challenge, not, oh, a bisexual won the challenge. It's Paulie won, or, you know, Paulie competed. Paulie did,
and I want to be able to sit there and be like, okay, just because he's bi doesn't mean he's less of a competitor. And I think that's what's messed with my head going home early the past 2 times. It's like, when I was closeted, I was dominant. And then all of a sudden I come out and I show this vulnerable side, and I go home early twice. And now I'm like sitting here questioning myself, being like, what is going on here? Like, you know, can I do it? You know what I mean? And I want to be able to prove that, yeah, I can do it, and I'm still me. You know, there's just this other side of me that I had to figure out how to mold and navigate into my competing and my living and all that stuff that just I never had to really worry about before, because I was just kind of buried it down. So it's definitely helped a lot.
Good. It's funny because I remember I was talking to your mom like the next day, and I said, oh, you know, interesting night last night. And she's like, yeah, you know, we obviously we knew it was happening at some point. It would have been nice if you gave us a heads up it was happening tonight. So she's like, we weren't really ready, and the phone started ringing, and like, it would have been nice. And obviously you didn't know when they were going to air.
I don't know episode wise. It could have been episode 1, 2, or 3. Or,
it was just kind of funny. She's like, heads up would have been nice, but but it's all good. She goes, but it's Paulie. And expect the unexpected.
Exactly.
It's kind of your mantra. I want to end it with this, because let's face it, this is all about me. You know, it's a podcast. So just talk briefly about kind of what you look for in a relationship with like your accountant / business advisor, and kind of how we work together.
Yeah, I mean, I look at everything. I mean, I ask you about every single little thing and how it's going to affect the business. Like, what I look for is somebody that's going to help me win, right? I love winning. You know, I'm not cocky enough or confident enough to think that I know everything, right? I know what I know, and I also know what I don't know, and that's where I come to you, because I don't know the tax codes. I don't know things about business. You have much more tenure. You've worked with way more people who are maybe less successful than me, people who are more successful than me. And I'm a very big proponent on, I want to get to where your most successful clients are. That's where I want to be. Now, you're the only one who really knows how that operates and how that works and how they protect their assets and protect their businesses and how they've thought, because I'm sure they consult with you as well. Now, I look to you almost as like that mentor for me. And that's what I look for in any business relationship. And I feel as though I found that in you, because you've always been very honest. You've always been very straightforward. You explain everything very thoroughly. I feel like my understanding of things has become better since I met you. You're also a good person. You know what I mean? So like there's also like that moral compass of things where I'm like, is this person good for me and a bad person? Is this person good for me and a good person? And I'm always going to go with the combo of good person and good for me over good person, terrible for me. So it's like, I've never heard any bad things about you from clients, never read any bad Google reviews about you. And I've also had a great personal experience with you. So that's what I've always looked for in that sense, is who can help me excel and bring out the best version of myself, who can unlock that ultimate version of myself. And I try to put people around me, because you're the sum of like the people closest to you. And that's not just family, friends. That's also in business. That's also who looks after your money. That's also who looks after your taxes. That's also who looks after you legally. So that's where I've positioned myself with you, where it's like, people come to me all the time. It's like, oh, I should connect you with my account. I'm like, I don't need an account. I'm good. You know what I mean?
And you've sent people over as well.
And I think the biggest form of flattery for somebody who works with you is somebody who you work with who trusts you enough to recommend friends.
No, absolutely.
To you. So like, I'm always looking for people to pass to you, and I think that is a testament to how I feel about you.
I think I got myself a soundbite. So
that's it.
Listen, I really appreciate you coming on. It's always good to see you. This is a good excuse to get together. And I wish you, as always, nothing but continued success.
Well, hey, as long as you got my back,
that's right.
We're going to keep getting success.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.